So we are live now. So I think we should start.
The classroom is the laboratory where today's students become tomorrow's leaders. Namaskar. We welcome all our guests, future entrepreneurs, panelists, and our classroom heroes to our panel discussion on the theme Classroom to Boardroom. Are you a student with $1 million idea burning a hole in your backpack? Or an educator wondering how to ignite the entrepreneurial spark within your students? Well, have we got the panel discussion for you?
Today, we're diving deep into the topic from classroom to boardroom, preparing students for entrepreneurial success. We have a powerhouse panel of experts ready to share their insights on bridging the gap between textbooks and boardrooms.
Imagine a classroom buzzing with ideas, not just from textbooks, but from students dreaming of building their own businesses. That's the power of fostering an entrepreneurial spirit in education.
In today's world, the skills needed for success go beyond memorizing facts. Creativity, problem solving, and the ability to take risks are becoming increasingly important. This panel discussion will explore how we can bridge this gap between traditional education and the exciting world of starting your own venture. This panel discussion brings together distinguished experts who have successfully transitioned from classroom learning to boardroom leadership. They will share insights on integrating entrepreneurial thinking into education, the role of AI and technology in transforming learning, and the impact of global market experiences and mentorship.
Business Summit 2024 at Bluebell's Model School is a remarkable event that marks the convergence of our esteemed Kshetra Commerce Fest and Udbhav Humanities Fest. This year, we proudly present an integrated platform that harmonizes the fields of commerce and humanities, fostering a vibrant environment where innovation, critical thinking, and futuristic skill sets flourish. The theme of Business Summit 2024 centers on growth and sustainability. Our event is meticulously designed to provide a platform that cultivates entrepreneurial mindsets and enhances problem solving skills. These core elements are essential for building a sustainable future and driving meaningful progress in both the business world and the society at large. We aim to encourage students to think like entrepreneurs, identify opportunities, take calculated risks, and transform innovative ideas into successful ventures. Our goal is to equip students with the ability to analyze complex issues, develop strategic solutions, and implement them effectively.
Bluebell's Model School is a place where we do not just learn from textbooks, but we are empowered to become future moguls. Think annual business summits where students pitch their ideas, venture-verse events that ignite a passion for innovation, and a dedicated with club to hone entrepreneurial skills. But wait, there's more. We have even integrated entrepreneurship as a core subject in our syllabus, ensuring a well-rounded foundation for future business leaders.
It is with the utmost honor and privilege that we welcome our esteemed panelists today. We are elated to have with us Mr. Vivek Shukla, who is the Director and CEO of Affairs Education and Advisory Group, India's leading education management and international education advisory organization. He is an accomplished entrepreneur with 28 years in the education sector. He has transformed affairs from an education fairs organizer into a comprehensive service provider in knowledge, dissemination, mentorship, edtech, headhunting, and talent management in K-12 to higher education. Mr. Shukla has significantly promoted India across the globe as an education hub for international students, fostering academic collaboration between Indian and international students, attracting foreign students to India for higher education. Thank you, sir, for gracing us with your presence. We welcome you.
We are honored to have with us our next panelist, Ms. Riddhi Agarwal. Ms. Riddhi Agarwal is a distinguished young entrepreneur in India, renowned for her significant contributions to the AI-powered tech domain. She co-founded Acad Alley, a deep tech startup that harnesses artificial intelligence to enhance students' academic performance. Her commitment to revolutionize education through innovative technological solutions is marked in her professional journey by extensive involvement in data analysis for global markets, including US, Australia, Canada, and the UK. She has collaborated with esteemed firms such as JP Morgan Chase and American Express. She's a TEDx speaker and has made it to the Forbes India W Power list, featuring as a self-made woman achiever. We are honored to have you here, ma'am.
We deem it our privilege to have amongst us Ms. Diva Sharma, who is the co-founder and CEO of Flair Health, a San Francisco-based company revolutionizing autoimmune disease care management within the $300 billion industry in the United States. Before establishing Flair Health and securing venture capital from prominent investors such as Y Combinator, Ms. Diva was an undergraduate studying computer science at Stanford University. At the age of 15, she developed and patented a remote patient monitoring device, earning recognition from the Government of India, the European Union, and the Intel Foundation. Ms. Diva has held product management roles at notable organizations, including Ancestry.com, Johnson & Johnson, and Stanford Medicine, showcasing her extensive experience and commitment to advancing healthcare technology.
At last, but definitely not the least, we have with us Mr. Akhil Singh, co-founder and CEO at Quest.com. Quest is a platform to make education data-driven. It is a navigator for learning which understands each student's unique position in the learning graph and creates a personalized learning path for them to succeed. It is used by over 2 million students in India. Sir is a graduate from BITS Pilani in IT and computer programming. We deem it our privilege to have you here, sir. And now, before we start with our discussion, I, Arman,
and I, Srishti,
we will be the moderators for today's panel discussion.
We would now like our esteemed panelists to present their opening statements to kickstart today's panel discussion. First and foremost, we would love to invite Mr. Vivek Shukla.
First of all, let me congratulate all of you, for setting up this wonderful opportunity, for all of us. Why for all of us? Why? Because a great learning opportunity when we are in front of young, budding star of tomorrow. And certainly, I believe, when I say I believe in this, because I see a greater advantage when these young students, as a student, what you have planning, the thought process, what you have today, I think this is not going to just contribute in your own personal life, but this is going to contribute when it comes to the economy of our country, the position of a company when it comes to the global map. So certainly, to congratulations to you, each one of you who's a part of it, and also to the management of Bluebell's Model School. Uh, you see, the most interesting time, I think this is the time where when I see young students, engaging in such kind of discussions. So during our time, these opportunities were not there, you know. And today, in the age of technology, when we talk about AI, when we talk about a lot of government policies, there's a tremendous opportunity when it comes to building up an ecosystem or being a part of an existing ecosystem. So it fosters innovation. So the whole mindset have completely shifted, which is very, very proactive, progressive. So I think young students who are thinking on the line of entrepreneurship, the whole environment is super conducive. And this is an opportunity where through this panel discussion, through this session which you have organized, I think millions and thousands of students can take the advantage to understand the potential of being an entrepreneur, because entrepreneur is not just about a subject. It's a life, it's a way of life what one can proceed. So I'll limit my thing because my other colleagues are there who will take it forward. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for starting this conversation on such a high note. Now, I would like to invite Ms. Riddhi Agarwal to present her opening remarks.
First of all, thank you so much for having me here, and congratulations to Bluebells and to all the young students out here for curating such an environment. 20 years back, who would have thought of starting their own business at this age, or maybe an app or a new product, right? But guess what? I mean, you all are entrepreneurs in the making, and let me tell you that you've picked an exciting time to dive into this world at this point in time. And when I was your age, I thought that entrepreneurs were these, suit wearing, briefcase carrying adults. But here's the thing, some of the biggest companies today were started by people not much older than you, right? Mark Zuckerberg, he started Facebook when he was in a college dorm. Right? But I'm not saying that you need to drop out and start the next big tech company, but All I'm saying is that your age is your superpower and you see the world very differently, and that's a fresh perspective. So that's pure gold in the entrepreneurial world. And at Acadeli, we are all about nurturing that entrepreneurial spark. And whether you want to create a world-changing startup or just want to solve a problem in your school or your neighborhood, and that's entrepreneurship. So let's chat and let's exchange some wonderful insights, and looking forward to this panel.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Actually, you highlighted the fact that big things start from humble beginnings. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you for your words, ma'am. They were truly inspiring. Now we would love to invite Ms. Diva Sharma to present her opening statement.
Thank you, Arman, Shrishti, for organizing this, and Dr. Sahil for also being so persistent as we came up with how to address a lot of the questions that students ask about. So, I first of all want to share that I'm of the belief that anyone from anywhere can learn anything. You just need to know what that end vision or goal is and be able to work backwards to hit those milestones. So that's something I want to talk about today, is at the point where you're at and with areas that you're passionate about, how can you actually put a product out into the world and acquire your first few users and then and see what the market actually needs. That's something I want to talk about. I also want to talk about another piece that, that the first two incredible panelists have addressed, but another big piece here is resilience and consistency. That's not talked about as much, but behind every success story that you see and people who are further along in their journeys, there's a lot of days there were ups and downs, and being able to prepare yourself for that and being consistent on those days as well is something that is important to talk about as well. So I'm excited to talk today, and we'll exchange a lot of incredible ideas, and please feel free to reach out with questions as they come up. But yeah, I'm really excited for all of you, and I'm very happy that you're learning about entrepreneurship at this stage.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Akhil Singh to please enlighten us with their opening remarks.
Thanks, Bluebills, for inviting me. And I think this is the second or third time I am in the Entrepreneurship Summit that Bluebills organizes. And it's an incredible thing that the school is doing that and students are participating at this age. And I think everyone addressed that. But it's extremely important now more than ever, because we as humanity, we are entering an age which is going to be very different from what we have seen in last any part of the civilization, right? AGI, or artificial general intelligence, is on the horizon. So the only thing that will separate humans are going to create stuff is the entrepreneurial mindset, the ability to think of things around them with first principles, identify the missing gaps, and solve them to make the world a better place or make things better, right? So solve problems which are fundamentally broken. Because tools of building these things, frameworks of building these things are going to be available at each and every human's hands. So if we learn about entrepreneurship, or if we learn about how to look at a problem or a construct, and how to go about solving that piece, getting first few users, as the fellow panelist said, it's an incredibly not just good to have, but incredibly important skill to build, and it's important to build at this stage. So I'm overwhelmed every time I interact with the entrepreneurs from Bluebills, the kind of ideas that they have, the maturity that they show in their business plan, and I'm super happy to be here. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. I truly believe that it's guidance from such great entrepreneurs like you that guide our students from turning their ideas into actual innovations, right? That was an exhilarating start to the proceedings. After hearing all of your stances on our theme, we have some questions for all of you. And if you can feel free to take up the question and answer it.
The first question we have, it's a very important one, especially in this age of social media, where it's very easy for misconceptions and rumors and fake news to spread about anything. So the question is, what are some of the biggest misconceptions you think students have about entrepreneurship, and what advice would you give to them? So, Vivek, sir, would you like to take that up?
Yes, I would love to. I think this is the most relevant question, and I always, when I interact with young students, I always, encourage them on highlighting the misconceptions, the myths which are there. So certainly these misconceptions, if you look at, I can note down, pin down some important points. It starts with generally young entrepreneur feels that it's a very quick path to success and you can be very wealthy in a year's time of if you're starting in entrepreneurship. The journey is very simple, so it's not that. I think the conception, there's a huge amount of commitment and a huge amount of understanding which is very much needed. So reality is extremely different. But yes, I'm not trying to discourage here, but I think the setting the right expectations is very, very important. And very often you'll come across that you'll find that one idea, maybe it's a super brilliant idea and it's very much feasible to execute it. There's a huge market for it. Still, that just an idea is not good enough for success. You need to work around that idea, and there's a different layers, which is very much needed. A finer attention is required when you are in the planning stage, execution stage. So as we are moving ahead, we will certainly get an opportunity to highlight those, but I'm just broadly categorizing the misconceptions which we uh, generally, we students, or when we started our career, I think I also had some misconceptions, but over the period of time certainly we get a lot more clarity when it comes to when in the process of setting up or running your own organizations or a business enterprise. Now another misconception which is extremely known and popular, that it is the concept misconception is that you need a lot of money to start a entrepreneurship. So that is exactly not true, because even with very limited resources, even a bootstrap organizations, institutions can have, you must have come across that they are running organizations and they have started the company with an ideation and it has grown to a different level altogether. And these are different ways of raising funds, for example crowdfunding, and even getting investment from various stakeholders who have interest in this particular segment. Uh, I also would like to list down, one more misconceptions, that generally parents or your peer group will discourage you as a young entrepreneur, that in this line of business the risk is very high and you may fall flat. But obviously the risk will always be there. But as an entrepreneur, always you calculate your risk properly, so your risk is there, so you understand your backup plan, how to create opportunities in case if things are not, the plan A and the plan B and the plan C is always into place. So some misconceptions which are very popular, I think I have identified, but I'm sure some of my learned colleagues would like to add here in case if they have some more points.
So, something that I just wanted to ask out of personal experience is that, our school organizes a design fair every year, right? And this is something that I've struggled with a lot. Any of you can feel free to take this up. But every time we are asked to create innovations, it's always a struggle to find the right problem to solve. What problem do we solve that would actually make an impact? So, what do you think are the criteria or the parameters that we can look for in order to check the feasibility of an idea and move ahead with it?
You see, it starts with I think this is something very natural. If you're you know walking on a road, you'll find you have to be a little more observant. So you'll find right from the rickshaw wala, how can you solve the problem of a rickshaw wala to a enterprise, to a in a supply chain. So it's all about how much you're observant, and then when you identify something, certainly a critical with a critical mindness, you can do a proper evaluation and understand, so that you identify a problem with a very very validating it with a very critical evaluation, and then finally arriving it to a point where you work on a solution which are feasible to implement. You see, at times, most of the time the solution is skyrocketing, and when you and it's very easy, very good to make it a very rosy kind of thing, but finally when you're executing it, you have to look at whether it's logical or the idea is ready for implementation or not. Because resource planning, when you understand your strength, your finances, your people who are aligned with your thoughts, so it's always a team, the collaborations, the many things falls into place. But it's all about how much conviction you have, a very rational approach will certainly lead you to a point where you will be able to convince your first friend, and then a group of friends can, finally you can go and pitch that idea to a company like us or many other company who would validate those ideas and start mentoring you. So it's a beautiful experience, and once you will get into this kind of experience, I think you will gain such an amazing skill sets, where one-on-one association, looking things from a different perspective, right? So even I've seen your understanding with your family, because you are not fixated with one thought process. So the beauty, it's entrepreneur journey not only helps you in your professional side, but it also helps you evolving you as a person. So your relationship within your social sector, with your business sector, because you will always understand things from the other point of view. Over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. We really do believe that young minds watching this are gaining a lot of value from this as they plan to start up their business as well. The next question we had in our minds was that, in your opinion, what are the most important qualities and skills required for an aspiring student entrepreneur to be successful? Riddhi ma'am, would you like to take this up?
Sure. Thank you so much for that question. At our company as well, I've had the opportunity to work with many aspiring students. And one thing I must say, that entrepreneurship in today's world, I think it's glorified, but we also have to set our expectations right. That it does come with a lot of hard work, resilience, and most importantly, grit, right? Because while there are many highs that you can achieve, but there are also many lows that you have to go through to achieve and be successful, right? So for me, one of the most important qualities would be resilience. And adaptability, right? Because there are so many challenges and setback in your entrepreneurial journey, and the ability to bounce back from failures and to adapt to the changing circumstances is very crucial, and especially in today's world, which is rapidly changing, right? I mean, who knew that AI would take over the world in just a couple of years? We don't know what lies ahead of us in the next few years. So we have to have that mindset of continuous learning, adaptability. And we often cite example of James Dyson, who actually went through almost 5,000 failed prototypes before he created a successful vacuum cleaner. So that's the resilience and the grit that you would need to be successful. The second thing that comes to my mind is problem solving and critical thinking, because there are, in your company, there would be ample number of problems that you'll be thrown at, and you have to come up with innovative solutions. So this definitely requires strong analytical and creative thinking skills. For example, Airbnb, I mean, they solve their own problem of affording rent by renting out their air mattresses in their apartment, which actually led to a revolutionary business idea. So that to me is very crucial, right? Problem solving and critical thinking. And then a few other qualities that I think would be extremely vital would be networking. Because ultimately, as a leader, you have to be sure of the right kind of people that you surround yourself with, and building relationships with your mentors, with your potential partners, or even competitors can really open up the opportunities. You can't know it all, right? So you need to surround yourself with people who can help you in your journey. So, for example, Richard Branson has attributed much of his success to the ability to connect with people and build a very strong network. So, to me, these qualities are very important: networking, problem solving, and of course, resilience and adaptability.
Ma'am, one of the things you said about adaptability I found really interesting, because I think sustainability in any kind of enterprise is the most difficult thing to achieve, right? Especially in India, I've seen so many companies from Tata to Reliance who've been working for so long. And I always have this question in my mind, how are they still relevant in 2024? How are they still having that strength and that capacity to be able to redevelop and reignite that same fire that we
Absolutely.
had when they started?
Yeah.
So that's that.
No, for this, I think one of the greatest examples would be Kodak, right? They started when they were one of the sole companies who were creating camera, but soon Apple took over, and because they were focused on innovation, right? They didn't come with a fixed mindset that we are here and we've got it all. So I think innovation research comes into play, and that to me is a great example of showing that you can't you as an entrepreneur, you can't have a fixed mindset, and you have to keep adapting and adopting to newer technologies, to newer innovation, and for your growing journey.
Right, ma'am. Students surely must have been jotting your the points you mentioned. And actually, this journey isn't really a cakewalk of entrepreneurship. It's a hard journey with its own set of challenges. Right? So the
Absolutely.
next question, we have is that how can students balance their academic commitments with pursuing entrepreneurial goals? Like Diva, ma'am, would you like to take this up? Because, ma'am, you have faced the dilemma and challenge of balancing studies as well as building your own venture when you started out at age 15. Right?
Yes, that's a really good question. And so it's really good to start planting the seeds early. In fact, knowledge is power, and if you know what you want and you get started on it as soon as possible, the odds of achieving success over the next few years increases, so long as you know what you want. That is, you can picture that sort of end goal that you want to achieve for your product. And then you can start working backwards. In terms of academic settings like schools and then even college, where I was in college when I actually started working on my business, and I met my co-founder as well. And then I was in school when I built the first iteration of a healthcare device that I took forward. I would say that I do have a few ideas. One is start with what you already have. So, for example, um, your parents might be in a certain industry and you hear a lot about it and you have unique insights that not other people have. It could be construction, it could be, it could be anything, or it could be an area where you feel it personally very emotionally vested, and you feel really sad to see the way the current operations go and work in that industry, and you sort of feel that those emotions as you see those inefficiencies. So picking a space is really important early on, at least an industry to start with, and knowing that that is in fact a big enough problem. But you know that there's a set of users. It doesn't have to be millions of users. It doesn't have to be an entire state in India. It can be hundreds of people that are experiencing that specific problem, and starting with that. I think for me, I actually used to go to this hospital in Delhi with my dadu, my grandfather, and he had a chronic condition, and I realized that there were hundreds of people who used to wait in long lines to get the blood sugar checked and a lot of the metrics checked. And I found this underserved group of users that were coming in more frequently to meet with their doctors in these sort of high volume settings where you need to get a lot of your biomarkers and your cardiometabolic indicators checked. And so I started building the prototype, sketching out what a healthcare device could look like in that space. And then the thing that really helped me in school was pitching that in my school science fair and going to the head of my science and innovation lab leader at my school, and being able to get some support there. And then I also applied to this amazing science fair that's hosted by the National Innovation Foundation of India. That's actually now I believe led by either the president or Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And so you have ample opportunities to then tap into science fairs and publish a paper, for example, start putting out content that you can do while you're in school. I think another really great way to use your academic setting is use your student sort of status to learn more about the industry. So you can reach out to a lot of executives and thought leaders and cold email them. And I used to do some of that when I was starting off. Is, hey, I'm a student at Stanford right now, and I'm learning a lot about healthcare in this space, and I see you have a really successful business in XYZ industry, and I'd love to, if you'd be willing to give 15 minutes of your time, I'd love to connect and learn about your challenges that you've experienced in the space. And just learning from that has been really, really helpful as well. And people are more likely to respond to you when you're a student. That is true, because people want to give back when they're further along in their careers. And so being a student is a really, really good time to do a lot of cold emailing in your industry to learn from leaders in the space. And yes, so those are a few ideas that I have for students in terms of academic commitments, being in the academic setting while starting a business. But also, if anyone has any specific questions, I'm happy to answer them later as well.
Ma'am, I had a question. for me and same for Arman. In our school, entrepreneurship is really owned in our students. We have, just as we mentioned, business summits, venture-verse, and that's something that we have as a privilege, right? But about 5 or 10 years ago, or even 15 years ago, when you were pursuing your education, I would imagine a lot of that would not be there, right? So, how do you think your academics or your school or your college supported you in sort of just helping you gear up in order to start processing your ideas and build them into your ventures?
So in terms of support from school, I would say that usually most schools now in India at least have some sort of science department head. They publish papers or they write in textbooks. They have some sort of domain expertise. So if your product touches science and innovation, I would recommend reaching out and asking them to help you source science fairs that you could apply to in India. There are a lot of them. That's one smart way to at least start putting out a product, writing it out. That's a really great way to get your name established in the industry, and then you can go and take a prototype forward from there on. Another way is to partner with colleges as well. So I partner with someone at IIT Delhi who was the head of innovation. It was actually just a cold email. I had no sort of connection to this person whatsoever. He was incredibly supportive. And so being able to learn from engineers who work with him in his lab to put that product out, the initial healthcare device that we built, was really helpful. And being surrounded by people who have it's like a muscle. You're able to build and put products out quickly to test out what the market wants. Is something that's really helpful if you surround yourself with people like that in school and in college settings as well. Like that's really helpful. And then finally, I would say again, using your student email to reach out and cold email and go to conferences as well. There's a lot of conferences that happen in different industries that you can actually go to. And as a student, a lot of times you will be able to get in without any cost. For example, that happens a lot, especially here in the US, and I'm sure in India as well. And so being able to go to a lot of these events, being a younger person, but having a product out really will get a lot of folks giving you advice. And so that's another way to leverage a student sort of status and be able to be in those rooms and learn about the other folks in the industry as well.
In relation to that, we would love to know what resources, programs, or initiatives would you recommend for students interested in learning about entrepreneurship? We would love if Akhil sir could answer this question.
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind is there's a bunch of stuff that YC puts out, Y Combinator. So that's something that one must read through. There are two other great people, if you guys know Peter Thiel and Paul Graham. They write really good essays on how to approach a particular problem, how to look at a particular industry. I think these are more generic in terms of how to build the mindset of starting out or building things up. And they're very important. They're very good to read through. I think the second thing that's extremely important, because a lot of times what also happens is you read through them and you learn to speak the language and do the jargonization of entrepreneurship, but you miss out on the fundamental tenet. And I think what one must really do is understand and imbibe a first principle thinking. And what's a first principle thinking is ability to question the fundamental truth, right? And that first principle thinking can be applied. I think a fellow panelist talked about a trade or construction, right? You question everything about what you're seeing there. Why is it the way it is, right? And that's your power, because the status quo has been what it is from years. But someone could come and see it very differently. And when you see it differently, you can change it, right? The biggest example, and that's at the top of the pyramid, applies to the bottom of the pyramid as well. But the top of the pyramid example is Elon Musk seeing rockets. Why are you not getting the body of the rocket, right? You send rockets to the MRW.
Sir, I believe those points we are also jotting down and the students who are watching this must be jotting down these resources. They're really helpful. And thank you so much. And we thank all the panelists for this wonderful round of common questions. Now let's move to some more specific questions in this discussion. So first of all, Vivek sir, we would love to know, having witnessed the education sector for 28 years, what have you observed regarding the evolution of the student interest in entrepreneurship? How has it grown, and how has the evolution happened in this realm?
I think if you look at, there's a huge, evolution have taken place, and the student interest have certainly built up, and this is because of many reasons. I think first, I think increasing in the awareness and the opportunities which was not there earlier. I think now, if you look at in the education curricula, uh, entrepreneurship is a part of it. Now there are a lot of awareness opportunities which, as an institution, suppose your school is creating through this kind of program. So this gives an edge to the students. Now going forward, the students have got really more interested in entrepreneurship because of the local and global startup ecosystems which is building. Now look at the programs which are happening in television. If you talk about Shark Tanks, look at many universities which are creating a lot of opportunities for young students, promising entrepreneur through many competitions, hackathons, ideathons. These kind of opportunities have really, gone to the next level, and still in coming years is going to be more impactful. Now there's another side to it, and why these things are, growing so rapidly. The interest of students are catching up very easily, is also due to the impact of technology, the use of technology, the adaptation of technology within the educational institutions. And as a student, in fact, all of you are using technology to your advantage in order to access relevant resources, to remain inspired by engaging with relevant communities who provides you relevant data, and then you have a path which you follow and you go ahead in terms of aspiring your career goals. Now there's another, awareness which has supported, a lot from the government side. Look at the government initiatives have gone, manifold. Many departments are super proactive, whether you talk about Atal Tinkering Labs or many initiatives of education departments. So overall, this has complemented, and there's a huge amount of shift which is completely notable to each and every one of us, where we see a greater advantage to these young students in terms of shaping up their careers when it comes to entrepreneurship.
Thank you so much, sir. Actually, I would like to add to that thing, and the government initiatives, like there is the government organizes the youth ideathon, the CBSE,
Hmm.
and it for that our school participates regularly. And the last time we participated, we got into the top 25 teams in the whole country. So we certainly believe that these things are actually honing and a level of sense of competition, and that also helps in bringing the standard and benchmark of entrepreneurship at student level a little higher. So
Certainly. The
yeah.
day, I visited very recently, I visited your school, I saw so many trophies, in your reception area, which was quite evident the kind of work your school and you as a students, a group of students are doing. So congratulations to you once again.
I think that's all because all of you entrepreneurs inspiring our young minds and us as well to be able to think of something like this and act on it as well.
But I bet, we took a very long period of time to reach wherever we are. You guys are now, you will not need so much of time to reach that scale. So it's going to be very rapidly. So maybe, it's a beautiful opportunities for all of us here on the panel. So it's not that we have a lot of experience and we are here. It's all about exchanging notes and understanding, the new generation is very, very promising, and honestly, so there is always a plateau after a growth, and I think at least I can tell you about my company. But yes, engaging with young minds. So every established organization, institutions, there's a huge opportunity where you collaborate with young mind, and I think this is a perfect opportunity which you have created, the school have created, where at least we have got an opportunity to connect and exchange energies, exchange that vibe.
Hmm.
These vibes are very, very important for any. This is a fuel for every entrepreneur to remain, inspired, to always move ahead, with changing times.
Right, sir, absolutely. To expand on the play of vital role in the growth of student interest in entrepreneurship, we would like if Riddhi ma'am could please tell us an answer to the question that we had, that what are her thoughts on the current state of educational technology in India?
Sure. Thank you for that question. It's a tricky one, right? The state of educational technology in India is quite complex and multifaceted, with both opportunities as well as challenges. And firstly, I think it's important for me to address the elephant in the room, the recent troubles of Byju's. While this has undoubtedly cast a shadow over the edtech sector, but I truly believe that it would be a mistake to let one company's mismanagement tarnish an entire industry, right? And the fundamental need for technology in education, it remains stronger than ever, and especially in India, where we have seen massive adaptation and adoption of technology during the COVID times, right? So India's edtech landscape, I would say, is at a transformative stage, and with AI coming in, we are seeing a surge in innovative platforms and tools that are actually reshaping how we approach learning. So, in fact, the government's initiatives like Diksha and Swayam, along with the emphasis on digital literacy in the NEP policy of 2020, it talks about the recognition of technology's role in education. So, so these things are actually happening, which are quite transformative, but we must acknowledge the challenges as well. And I think that in India, the digital divide remains a significant hurdle, with the urban areas often benefiting more than the rural regions. And effective integration of these technologies into our existing education system is another complex task that we're still grappling with. But we should, having said that, not lose the immense potential in our system. And EdTech has the power to actually democratize education with AI coming in, and it can make quality learning and resources accessible to millions who've previously had limited options, right? It can provide those personalized learning experiences, adaptive and which are adaptive to individual needs. So I believe that the key to moving forward would be to learn both from our successes and failures in the past. And we need to focus on sustainable, ethical business models in the edtech industry. And to do this, we need to ensure that there is proper teacher training that can effectively leverage those technologies. So, so I think definitely education, edtech is a powerful tool, and it can be a great equalizer, breaking down the geographical as well as social economic barriers in the education system in India.
Ma'am, I had a question. You
Yes.
talked about how we can break the divide between the rural and the urban times, right? So I've been doing an internship at an organization called Muskurahat. So it's basically about educating children who don't have the access to schools and don't have the access to education. How do you think technology or edtech, as we're discussing, can help break these barriers, right? Because even after all these years, after education has been introduced, when you still go to rural areas or you still go for a walk near some places, still see those students not going to school, not knowing what actually a phone or a laptop or an iPad holds and what power it holds. So how do you think that sort of edtech can help transform their lives?
I think COVID kind of helped all of us. We were actually thrusted into using technology, right? At that time, be it teachers or students, we found our way into learning using online technologies. And we saw that not just in urban areas, but also in rural areas where students or parents used to lend their phones and devices and used to take classes. So I think that was one stage where we have kind of adopted technology, and we've seen that there's a potential in adopting technology even in rural areas. Of course, there needs to be more capital that needs to be infused in the infrastructure from the government side, talking about smart boards, giving them devices in the classroom. I think in that aspect, there needs to be more investment, both in terms of capital infrastructure as well as teacher training programs, right? It's not just about giving them devices, it's also about how they can utilize them to their fullest potential. So I think teacher training programs need to be conducted, and more investments needs to be spent on giving them the right infrastructure.
From connecting to this, how do you think educational technology can bridge the gap between theoretical knowledge and practical skills needed for entrepreneurship?
So I think, there are different avenues that we can connect theoretical knowledge with the practical entrepreneurial skills as well. And there are a lot of online courses and skill-specific training programs that give access to entrepreneurial education. For example, in Coursera, there's entrepreneurship specialization by Wharton School that provides a comprehensive curriculum covering ideation, finance, and strategy. And similarly, like Udacity's entrepreneurship nano degree gives a hands-on project in business modeling and pitch creation. So I'm sure that if students utilize these courses, they can go beyond theory by incorporating real-world case studies and practical assignments, right? So that is one. Then definitely, when you talk about more collaborative and projects-based learning tools that actually mimic the real-world entrepreneurial scenarios, so students can actually help startup optimize in their social media strategy or develop a new product concept by applying their classroom knowledge to more tangible business problems. So that is another. And I think there are anyway virtual mentorship programs as well, and networking platforms that students can leverage. And I think, in my opinion, there are many education tools that are available and that can actually bridge the gap between the theory and the practice.
Right, ma'am, absolutely. So I actually do correspond with the fact that our pedagogy is basically a big inspiration for us, what we want to take up as our venture further, right? And ma'am, on those lines only, I would like to now ask Diva, ma'am, that ma'am, you started developing healthcare solutions at a very early age. What inspired you actually to pursue this path, and how did your early life experiences and your pedagogy influence your decisions to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, really good question. And I alluded to this a little bit before, but a lot of it comes from, instead of finding new things, a lot of times you have to start with what you already have or what you already know. We've all had unique life experiences. Again, our family members work in different industries. A lot of us have grown up in with different backgrounds. We have been, in my case, I've been exposed to two countries now, two of the most amazing countries in the world, and so learning from a lot of those different experiences. And I think for everyone, it's unique. But I would say for me, I personally, when I used to go to hospitals with my grandfather and see a lot of people who were waiting, they travel from villages and all of these other areas to get their to work with a doctor to get their blood sugar down to XYZ, or like be able to track how their heart disease progression is going. And there just weren't enough doctors to take care of them. I was like, we need more remote. And this was a time when, and it wasn't too many years ago, but this was a time when, for example, fitness wearables were not big, and there wasn't that much adoption in with Apple Watches and some of these other medical devices that people use now to track their metrics at home. But I realized that there was this gap, and there was a lot of need for remote solutions to triage our patients in hospital settings. And so for me, the process was that I wanted to establish a device and take it to science fairs and see what we could do with the Indian government. That was my goal for my initial product. And so it started off with sketches and designs, and then actually I went to hospitals in India, and a lot of times I was turned away at the door because they're like, we don't store all this data for you to train your device here, or just so it was difficult. And then I needed data to train, and now we're in the AI sort of boom where AI has grown a lot. But back then I needed data to train those data sets, and I actually went to animal hospitals instead and try to get bulk data from them. And it was just trying to work around a lot of different paths to be able to get to the end result that I need to be able to show proof of concept. And so that's how the journey started off. And I was able to get mentored by, as I mentioned, my professors and IIT Delhi. And then no, I didn't go to IIT Delhi, as a, just heads up. It was an advisor that I had set up from scratch when I was in school. And I also worked with my head of science and technology, a department lead at my high school, and then we worked together to see how we could take it forward. So that's how it started. But it came down to feelings of hurt, sadness, anger, seeing a broken system, feeling really bad for certain people. And my grandfather was one of those people who used to go a lot all the time. And so I those were emotions that started off with my first product that I put out into the world. And I carry the same emotions with my existing business as well. So so a lot of it starts from how you feel about certain spaces, and that's where the motivation comes from.
Right, ma'am. I had a question. Since you are into healthcare, I feel like I've always thought that any healthcare venture, or any kind of venture, it's very difficult to penetrate into the market, right? In order to establish your position in the market, make sure that you're recognized, and that takes a long time, right? So I would like to ask you, what did you do in order to make your product or your business penetrate into that healthcare market and make sure that people knew what your product was and how it could help them?
Yeah, I can start with our existing business, and then I can take it back to my initial healthcare device. So in terms of penetrating the market and being in the healthcare industry, you definitely need to understand the way people interact with technologies and the appetite to interact with technologies in the healthcare space. People are very sensitive about just what they're reading, what they're seeing, and there's a lot of misinformation as well. And so there's a lot of herd mentality. People hear something is going well versus another, space is not going so well. And so in our case, a lot of it came from doctor referrals. So we actually, in our existing business, we incentivize doctors. So we're in the autoimmune care space, and that's a newer but very massive space. And it's kind of like cancer, but it's been second nature in terms of its study all this while. And so for us, a lot of it was finding patients that feel a certain way. They just have really hard diagnosis journeys in the US, and they feel very hurt by the system. They feel like they're not seen. And so finding that unmet need, and then partnering with the doctors who treat them, to offer our existing services and platform was the way we did it. And so a lot of it is thinking through how can we incentivize people who are trustworthy in the space to speak about our product, whether that is, again, as you start rolling out a product and you get more advanced, and as students putting out your product, you realize you need to create incentive structures for people who are sharing your product with other people, or you need to be a thought leader in the space, put out scientific research from a leader in the space, so papers, etc., so that other doctors that are reading it are like, oh wow, this is important and this is really necessary. So you need to think through a lot of that and unblock as you go. So yes, partnerships with thought leaders, incentive structures that make sense, getting services covered in a way that's cost effective. That's another one. And so those are some ways that you can establish your name in the healthcare space. And then I believe for my device as well, working with the Indian government was really, really great. And it gave access to a lot of doctors who were thinking about the same sort of products. And doctors also experience a lot of burnout. That's another thing. If you can make doctors' lives easier by reducing burnout and helping them just take care of their patients better, that's a lot for them too.
Right, ma'am. We're so grateful that your product did penetrate into the market because it saved so much lives, saved so many lives, and helped so many people. My next question is to Mr. Akhil. Is that looking ahead, how do you envision, sir, in expanding the reach of your platform, Quest, to empower even more students on their entrepreneurial journeys?
So let me start by doing that right now. As an entrepreneur, you should always be selling. We've got a product called Mori.ai, which is a personalized AI tutor, and all of the guys listening here can use that. It understands about the student. It understands about the curriculum that you are studying, and based on that, it creates a personalized learning tutoring platform for you. It's Mori.ai, MORRIE.ai. So that's what I'm doing right now, expanding the reach of my product. But so the product that we have is focused on students and learners, and it's a general purpose learning AI. It works for K-12, it works for test prep, it works if you're a fourth grader, if you're studying at Stanford, if you're just learning a book like Sapiens, it works for all the kind of learners, right? So there are three ways in which we are doing it. One is the K-12 route. There we are doing our own go-to-market strategy. And I must tell this to every entrepreneur here. If 50% of your work is product, 50% is GTM, 50% is go-to-market. A lot of people, when they start a just focus on the product. That's it. That's really important. But if go-to-market is not done, you will not be able to really make it out. So the way we do it is K-12 is something that we're doing ourselves. For example, we had a discussion with the Bluebill's teachers yesterday. So we're introducing the product for teachers, making it very simple for them to make their students adopt Mori. Mori is the new product that we have. And for all the other markets like test prep, Middle East, some parts of Europe, we are partnering with people who already have distribution. So in education technology, there have been largely three different waves, right? One has been about democratizing the pedagogy. And YouTube actually led the wave there, right? You go to YouTube, you'll find a teacher teaching you something in a way where you'll understand it. I think with AI, it's going to be personalization. It's not just what is being taught, it is being taught at my level, it is being taught to by understanding what fundamental gaps I have. If I don't understand quadratic equation, don't teach me projectile, right? So that's what we are doing with our product. With K-12, we are finding our own GTM. We are going school to school to school. We have around 2,000 schools with us who are using it right now, and 2 million students come from that. And all the other markets like K-12 and test prep and outside India, we are partnering with platforms like ERP and LMS, which already have distribution, but this product adds a lot of value to their usage. And I think as Diva also says, it's extremely important to incentivize all the stakeholders in between if they're helping you transcend your product to more users. So that's what we do with the companies which help us get more distribution in the space, which we are not really targeting ourselves.
Right. So actually, we are really looking forward for this collaboration between our school and yours. So definitely us and our students will really benefit from this.
I hope so.
Right. So moving ahead, Vivek sir, I would like to ask you that in your experience of mentoring startups like Riddhi ma'am's acad, what are the most common gaps in the preparedness of that student entrepreneurs face? So some gaps in their preparedness, how they are planning to build their own venture.
See, if you look at, it's not only the gaps which generally I'm not trying to refer to young students, but generally every enterprise when an individual or a group of people starts, so there has to be a very scientific approach in terms of having a deeper understanding about the whole ecosystem what you're trying to create. So I always have noticed, working very closely with young startups is firstly, a deep market research and understanding. That lack of market research and understanding leads to, a lot of scenarios where you are not prepared for. And then mostly, which I find to be extremely crucial, which is a detailed business planning and strategy. So not pertaining just to the product or the services, but also to the communication design, the marketing, the sales pitch, the story behind the product. I think these things are very, very essential, because at times you'll find that you have built up a fantastic product, and certainly there is a lot of demand of that product, but there is another side to it. How do you communicate to a community or to your target customer and attract or get their attention? So today in the in a space where everything is so cluttered, the consumer mind is over occupied with 10 different things. Every brand, every product is hammering you from every side. Now from there, how do you create a story so that you grab their attention? Hmm? Now, one more point which I would like to highlight is also financial management is the backbone, of any startup, and this is extremely important. Why? Because at certain point of time, you'll find things are going fantastic. Things are moving ahead, but you have to take care of the exigency and emergency, where if things are not going as per the plan, but how do you sustain it in the most crucial time? And remaining, other areas are there, but I wanted to highlight one more point which is very very relevant, and especially it comes when you are creating a very technical product or something where a lot of regulations and the statutory legal obligation one has to fulfill. I think many startups I have noticed that maybe they have not been able to get the complete hang of it, or a finer understanding about the regulatory knowledge. I mean, this is extremely important for every startup. And the bottom line, again, I would like to repeat, any good thing in this universe today you cannot sell with a fantastic advertising, promotion, and marketing. I feel the world's best thing also needs to be marketed well. So sales and marketing is again a very very extremely important dimensions where every startup has to. And you look at many product in the market, you'll find the product is not so good, but the traction of that product is so high that they are acquiring customers. And somewhere, once you have the customer base, and you can still work on your product and you can make it better in coming times. So these are the important things which are coming to my mind as of now.
Right, so connecting to that, we would like to ask Riddhi ma'am that in your experience with Acad Ali, what are the key challenges students face in the current education system that hinder entrepreneurial development?
Yeah, thank you for that question. First of all, I would like to start with the fact that the Indian education system has actually made a significant progress, and the fact that we're having this business summit today is a testament to that. So, when I was a student, opportunities like these were rare. So, let's take a moment to appreciate how far we have come. But I think while we're talking about India as a whole, there still are a lot of challenges in the education system. And probably the first thing that comes to my mind is the limited exposure to actually real world business scenarios, right? And lack of practical hands on experiences. So many students
I
would
agree.
graduate without ever having to encounter a real business challenge. And I believe that students should get enough opportunities to work on tangible projects or solve real problems. And when they're exposed to concepts like cash flow or market analysis, it's often theoretical and disconnected from the reality, but it is extremely crucial to have these scenarios in the real world and to gain practical and hands-on learning experience. And the second thing would be, I think there should be more options for interdisciplinary learning, right? Entrepreneurship often requires combining knowledge from various fields. So as an entrepreneur, you have to wear multiple hats. You are required to take up multiple roles, be it a product person, a tech person, a sales, or people management, right? But in the education system, I think subjects should not be taught in silos, because that can be really challenging for students to connect the dots and see the bigger picture. And most critically, I would say that there's an aversion to taking risk in our education
Huh.
system. And I remember that Mark Zuckerberg once said that the biggest risk in today's world is not taking any risk. So, in a world that is changing so quickly, I think the only strategies that is guaranteed to fail is not taking risks. So, there is this inbuilt cultural stigma around failure, right, that can deter students from taking entrepreneurial risk. And the education system, I think, must encourage risk taking and resilience, which are very important for entrepreneurs.
I think to credit the fact that we see how our education system has progressed, one thing that I would like to tell you is that, when Shark Tank came out in India, I remember it being entertainment for me at first. But then when I started now in grade 11th, I'm a commerce student and I've started learning from subjects like business studies or accountancy or economics for that matter, it's become education to me because I understand the big words that they use now. I understand what they're meaning, what the entrepreneurs and the judges are actually trying to say. And I think it's a lot of credit to also the NEP that has come out, that the government has decided to bring out and to inculcate subjects that help students understand the business world in real life and make them feel confident that yes, even they can become entrepreneurs and even they can turn their ideas into reality. Continuing to this, my next question is to Ms. Diva. Is that what advice would you like to give students who are passionate about making a positive impact through business, but they might not have fully formed a business idea yet?
Mhm. Yeah. So I would say think about if you're really interested in launching a product, I would say first think about the industry you want to be in. Overall, that's really important. Sometimes you don't know the exact product that's going to take off, but you might know that these folks are, these users are underserved by a traditional system, or this is a particularly challenging pain point. A lot of that comes from your own insights, your experiences, maybe some internships that you've done, or your what you hear from your family members, your parents in the industry that they work in. A lot of that can come from what you see on the streets of India when you go to school every day, and come back home as well. And so at least finding at least one industry to start with that you really care a lot about is the starting point. And so for me, healthcare was something that came pretty naturally, and I was mainly interested in healthcare technology. I wasn't necessarily looking to become a doctor, but I just realized that a lot of the healthcare industry is sitting on massive amounts of data that can be used to create more medications and diagnose patients earlier in their journeys. And so that was what I used to really care a lot about, and I still care a lot about it. And so a lot of my internships, my work had been in that space. Then it is to start at least meeting people in the industry. Sometimes people who are further along in their journeys, often if there are other people who are of your age who've launched products as well, meeting them, and starting to at least meet folks in the space. Going to conferences, cold emails, outreach. LinkedIn is really great. I don't know if a lot of you have LinkedIn, but if you don't have one, you should create one. I had one, and towards the end of high school, it was really helpful. And starting to go to a lot of these conferences and events was helpful. You go and approach people, and then get their email and set up coffee chats to learn more about that space. And then I also do think, and this is actually, so I did Y Combinator, it's a startup accelerator, and I actually do really think this advice is really important. Is a lot of companies launch very late, or they're and understandably some companies are in stealth mode, which makes sense if you have protective IP and things like that. But launching is important. What that means when I say launch is you don't have to do official launch party and do all of that. You can just start to tell users, hey, I have this, I realize that you have this problem, I have this product, would you be interested in trying it out, or at least creating a basic sign up page or something like that, where they can get started with using your product and interacting with it. And the goal should be to obviously start generating revenue from the beginning. And this is again YC advice is don't try to give out products for free unless you can monetize in a different way. But it is important to at least start figuring out, how would your business generate revenue from the beginning. And so the goal should be to have some early user sign up, give you feedback, and process a few payments. That could be what your initial product could look like. For example, if you're in the healthcare industry, that could be, and you're doing you have a telehealth platform, that could be doing 5 visits, in your locality with patients you know have XYZ condition with the right doctors. It doesn't have to be massively a huge scale business from the beginning. At least start getting the data, and then you'll start seeing over time, what metrics do you need to hit. Is this business going to be able to generate revenue in the long term? Is this a sustainable business model? But yeah, I would just say I believe this, and I'm sure there are differing opinions, but launching as soon as possible is important. So at least having something people can interact with, your users. Yeah.
So, ma'am, you said something about finding ideas in the streets of India, and I think just something that I would like to share is that when we envision entrepreneurs, we think of big buildings, suits, piles of paper stacked on the table. But I think the real entrepreneurs are people on the streets, especially in India, selling handicrafts, things we've never seen anywhere else but in India, sending earthen pots or anything of that sort. They don't need any marketing or any financial strategy. All they have is word of mouth. And I think that's one of the biggest inspirations we can take, right? It just takes that idea and a little bit of that heart to be able to get that business going. And I think that's something incredible that you mentioned.
Absolutely. So moving ahead, Akhil sir, I would like to ask you, like with the discussion until now, we have now got the resources, the students have got the resources, how they can move ahead with their startup, how they can completely form their ideas, this ma'am told. So now looking ahead, there are some students who may be feeling hesitant or unsure about how this may go ahead or how this may roll out. So any advice to students who are feeling unsure about this, they're starting their journey in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think the strongest tool for an entrepreneur and at early stage before you have launched a product is your first principle thinking. I want to emphasize on it as much as possible because that is what will make you feel confident about what you're thinking. Right? See, the world is information. You've got a processor here. When you are processing, you're creating your own outcome, right? And if that is making sense to you and the world is saying something else, you can continue to ask questions. What I mean by it, when you look at a construct, you look at the streets, you look at a problem, you look at anything, right? And you question, why is it the way it is? And if you're not finding a convincing answer, then you probably have a shot at it, right? You can probably go out and build something there. But if you're finding convincing answers, don't like fool yourself. If you're finding convincing answers, say, okay, this is the way it is because of X, Y, Z. But if you're not finding convincing answers, read a lot about it. The first part of what you should read was very generic, right? Paul Graham, Peter Thiel, Wycombe. Search has a lot of stuff. Search, there's the Sequoia's fund has a lot of stuff. Read about that, and that's very generic about startups. And all the conversation that we are having here also is very generic gyan of sorts. Might help. But when you stumble upon a construct and you think about it, why is it the way it is? And you have come to a conclusion, this can be better. Read ton of stuff about that construct. Speak to people who and don't take experienced people on the face of it. Okay, most of the time they're trying to protect status quo, right? And it's new people who would come and see it in a different way and solve for it. So yeah, I think once you've got generic stuff, keep reading it because it helps you get a good mental model, good framework of how to approach things. But be very observant, as I think Vivek said, question everything, not like to find answers, not for the sake of it. Think of it from first principles. And once you, once you're not getting convincing answers, read ton of stuff about it, and then go out and build if you see that something needs to be fixed in the world.
I think that's amazing advice. And we really thank you all for contributing so significantly in this conversation. I think we all have our minds buzzing with ideas. I mean, talking about me, I feel like I've stirred up an entrepreneur I did not know that was inside me at all before this conversation. So, as students and future leaders, it was such a privilege hearing each one of you talk about change in education in order to foster and inculcate in students entrepreneurial skills, confidence, and so much more. And to close this enriching discussion, we would appreciate if all of you could just give a brief closing statement to sum up your flow of thought on classroom to boardroom. We could start with Akhil sir.
Yeah, I think with the fear of being repetitive, first principle is your tool. Question the status quo, read ton of stuff about it, and if you're not finding convincing answer about why the thing it is the way it is, go ahead and build it. You're only doing two things. Once you have got the problem set and the solution set, you only do two things: you build and you sell. Everything else is noise. Once you've got first, so first principle, understand what can be made better. And when you have put out a solution, now be absolute realist. Take feedback, iterate. Till the time people really think that this is a solution to the problem you have identified in the beginning. If you have done this, you have got a state what's called product market fit. And product market fit is largely generally a change in the world because you've changed the way things work. Once you've gotten there, then you do everything else, which is sales, fundraise, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, so that would be my closing statement.
Thank you, sir. I think that was just perfect for your closing statement. Next, we would love to have Miss Diva to share her last few thoughts on this theme that we had today.
Yes. So a lot of questions on balancing academics with your entrepreneurial venture. I would say that there is this amazing book called Atomic Habits, which talks about, even being able to dedicate a few minutes a day to start with and create incrementally making progress every single day. And so even if you don't have the time right now, there's too many exams to take. If you can set up some time every day, at least maybe an hour or so to start thinking about the industry you want to be in and the sort of underserved user groups you're seeing and what a product could look like try to get 1% better every day and start pushing like that. That could be one way to go about it. And then obviously launch as soon as possible and start to generate revenue and charge users as well. That would be my takeaway. I also do think that there are we talked about a lot of resources today. We talked about science fairs like the National Innovation Foundation one, and we talked about Y Combinator resources. I know that Akhil mentioned a few others as well. And a lot of these we would love if there's a way to send this over to all of the students, that would be really great. Just so you have this library to reference and take a look at as well. But yeah, those would be my closing statements, and definitely don't be deterred, and keep going and pursuing your dreams, and it's all about getting 1% better every day. So you start with what you have and look at what you have and look at your competitive advantages in this world, and then start to think about how you can use that to generate the value that you want to create in the world from there. So that's what I would have to say as my closing statement.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. There were really valuable and exciting inputs to the panel discussion. So moving ahead, Riddhi ma'am, your closing remarks.
Yeah. Thank you so much for such an insightful discussion. And one of the books that I would recommend would be Zero to One. It's by Peter Thiel, right? And it says that, why don't you take a leap of faith? Your idea does not have to be big. Maybe it's just pitching an idea to your school principal or starting a small project in your community. Whatever it is, just take that first step, because Amazon started by selling books online, right?
Right.
Jeff Bezos did not set out to create the everything store from day one. He saw an opportunity in the online book sales and gradually expanded from there. So I would just say that the world is changing rapidly, and it definitely needs your fresh perspectives, your innovative ideas, and your courage to make a difference. And you are the entrepreneurs of tomorrow. I know that the journey of entrepreneurship is not easy, but I think it's definitely worth it. So all the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Your perspective has really added a lot of value to this conversation. Lastly, Vivek sir, your closing remarks.
I think all the three panelists have added very high recommendations. I can relate to that. Let me touch upon the other side of it. I think entrepreneurship is not a destination; it's a journey, and we make it very complex by giving a lot of gyan mantra. See, it's very simple. You need to have that heart with compassion, okay, an urge to serve the need of the society, to solve the problem. So if you have that compassion, if you have that empathy element, I think that will help you sustaining the turbulent times, in anything which you do. And it's very different from doing a business. So, and having a very such a heart, a melting heart, is such an easy thing to do. If you're very sensitive towards your people, if you're very sensitive towards your environment, you will be able to relate to them, you will be able to talk to them, you will be able to engage with them, you will be able to identify. So once you will engage with them, you'll identify their problems. With collaboration, you will be able to find some solutions, okay. And entrepreneurship, it's not a journey where you have to akla cholo re. You cannot walk all alone, right? It's all about togetherness, building community, okay, advocating something for the mankind. So it's, I find it to be the most simplest, easiest things. But yes, as all our learned panels suggested, recommended some key pointers which we should always keep in mind when we are getting into the line of entrepreneurship. So once again, thank you so much. I think it is great learning experience for me to have such young panelists, and they have given greater insight. Riddhi and Akhil, and even my colleague, other colleagues. So it's extremely exciting to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Actually, what you said, taking the community together, as we talk about the process of Atmanirbhar Bharat and the Vasudev Kutumbakam idea. So these are some things that we are taking forward, and in the 75th year and 76th year of independence that we're running, I truly believe India will shine with the guidance and mentorship of entrepreneurs like you and the passion and zeal of students like us. Thank you all for such inspiring thoughts. This discussion has been a treasure trove of valuable advice for anyone interested in fostering the next generation of entrepreneurs.
As we conclude, let's turn these insights into actions. Here are some key takeaways we can all take. Number one is embracing lifelong learning. Curiosity is the fuel for innovation, encouraging a love for discovery that goes beyond the classrooms and textbooks.
Secondly, build your network. Connections are often the foundation for success. Start building relationships early and nurture them throughout your career.
Number three is learning from our setbacks. Failure is a natural part of the entrepreneurial journey. Embrace challenges as learning experiences and use them to build resilience.
Find your passion. When you're driven with a deep interest, you'll have the motivation to persevere through difficult times.
And most importantly, let's remember the journey from classroom to boardroom is an exciting one. And we hope this discussion has equipped you with the tools and inspiration to navigate that path. Adding to what Arman said, moving towards 78th Independence Day, I think more than the learnings we can take away, we should be proud of ourselves as a nation from progressing from independence to here and creating such a country with such beautiful entrepreneurs, growing talent, and growing education as well. So thank you all to all of the panelists for being here. I think this was one of the most inspirational talks that we've and conversations we've had here at Bluebells, and we are eternally grateful for you for guiding our students and us as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all the panelists, and thank you to all the guests and the attendees for joining in. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Special thank you. I just want to add a few lines here because since this has been on a very short notice, everyone could give their consent and able to join. I really extend our heartfelt gratitude to each one of you joining for this online panel discussion for today on such a short notice. Your insight and expertise added tremendous value to the session. Believe me that this is things which we have not been very common, but yes, the moment we are organizing, we are getting some support like you people have been there. We deeply appreciate your time and efforts you have been given to this particular event. Thank you, Vivek sir, for your profound insights and the thoughtful, provoking contribution. Diva ma'am, I really extend your thanks for your dynamic perspective and the engaging discussion which you have made today, and it was really meaningful for each one of them, those who are listening at that. Ms. Riddhi, that's thank you so much for being here today with us, and you were sharing your ideas and the innovative experiences as well as the valuable experiences which you were sharing with us. It was really meaningful for each one of us today. Thank you, Akhil sir, for being here today, for your strategic viewpoint and the practical advice. It was really nice to have you here on this panel discussion. I feel that today's discussion was very illuminated and various aspects on which we were worked together and we thought of, and offering fresh perspective and actionable advices given by each one of us. It was tremendous. It's a great thanks from the management side also, because the management also believe that we should provide something which is really workable for all our children, those who are sitting in our school. Principal ma'am, she's not able to join today on this time because she is somehow busy. I just tried to call her up, but she could not join today. But anyways, thank you so much, everyone, for being here today, and hopefully we'll be remain in connected. That's why for any of your future collaboration, and hopefully waiting for Miss Riddhi there on the day of Saturday.
Sure, I'm looking forward to that. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure having you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaskar.
Thank you, ma'am.